advance on this. Well, having talked about abortion in Greco-Roman culture, now I want to move to abortion in Judaism. Since abortion exposure and infanticide were commonplace in the ancient world, at least reference to them is kind of expected, don't you think, in the numerous ordinances comprising Jewish oral law. But that's simply not the case. And the oral tradition has nothing to say about abortion in Judaism. Well, really, rabbinic traditions and oral traditions that were attached to Pharisees and others. However, there is good reason that no prohibitions or procedures concerning them made its way into Scripture, and it's because it just simply wasn't practiced among the Jews. You don't find the word abortion. You find a miscarriage, but it's always a miscarriage, a natural miscarriage, except in one case, which we'll talk about in a moment. But the word abortion isn't used, and it's because they didn't practice it. They were one of the four groups that were widely known as not accommodating the culture of Greco-Roman society. In fact, they were known throughout the world as denouncing such practices. And this demonstrates the resolve of their communities, for contemporary writers were astounded that they reared all their offspring. Instead, sages, scribes, and rabbis based their views on biblical regulations, in particular a single scriptural reference, Exodus chapter 21, verses 22 and 23. It's a reference to miscarriage. Now, this passage was interpreted several ways among those dwelling in the diaspora during the Second Temple period. It imposed a monetary penalty on the man who, in the course of a quarrel with another individual, inadvertently strikes an expecting wife, causing the miscarriage of her fetus. Now, if the assault resulted in the woman's death, well, then a capital offense was required. A capital punishment was required. If it did not result in her death, then there was a monetary penalty required. Well, the ancient sages interpreted this passage consistently until the arrival of the Septuagint, when some portions introduced language reflecting Hellenistic philosophy and ethics. And I want to talk about that because the Septuagint made such a tremendous impact on the Western world. In fact, I think an argument could be made that it's the most influential Western document ever written, because it is the document from which Christians drew their scripture, and also the ethics that helped formulate the entire Middle Ages of the Western world. We'll take a look at that, as well as other issues like what Philo and Josephus had to say about these practices during their periods of time. All that coming up this hour on God Talk. My name is Brent Walters. You're listening to KGO.